Hi, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com, or of course follow us on Instagram at filmmaker_u. Every week we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this week I'm joined by actress Tanna Frederick, who recently is in the feature South of Hope Street and can currently be seen in the one-woman play Lion Eyes at the Whitefire Theatre in Los Angeles. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
To jump to your one woman play, where did the idea come for Lion Eyes?
Um, well, in college, I had done a one-woman show as an honors thesis project. I went to the University of Iowa, which has a great writing program, as you know.
Hmm.
I kind of got excoriated by one of my professors. And so ever since then, I've wanted to do another one-woman show, and just because it's kind of the most terrifying naked experience, because it's just you, your material. Hopefully, you have a director, unless you're really brave, and then the audience. And so I have been working since COVID on sort of my own history and my
Hmm.
history with my ex husband, filmmaker Henry Jaglom. Um, and not just my experience with Henry, but my whole experience of coming to Hollywood and sort of being a twinkly eyed girl from Iowa coming out here and, going through all of the scrapes and scratches of Los Angeles and what one goes through, as we come out here. So that was kind of the impetus for my show.
I've been a camera person for 30 years and I fell in love with cinema. I heard there was free film school in France and I wanted to get into the French film school. I really didn't know anything at the time, but I knew at least how to take pictures. So I said, I'll try for the image department. And then when I miraculously got into the French film school, I fell in love with working with the camera. You're following what's going to be in the movie. So that immediacy that the camera allows is what I loved from the beginning. I'm Kirsten Johnson, and this is my course about documentary cinematography.
So, what would your warning be then to young people coming out to Hollywood?
I would say look into the auditions that you are going to. Gosh, I can remember going out for some reality audition, and or it was supposed to be like a feature film, and then suddenly a whole bunch of men jumped out in pink bunny suits, and I had signed a waiver before the audition, and they were all suddenly like there were these bouncy rabbits all around me, and of course, like I couldn't say no after that because I had signed a waiver. So
Yeah.
I have no idea where that footage is. I hope I never see it. But, there's a lot of little skirmishes like that
Yeah.
happen when you get out here. And you just really need to research what we want it so badly, to make it out here. But
Hmm.
but sometimes that is making a Faustian deal. So make sure to look into what you are doing.
Now, you've written this, so I'm wondering, whenever I talk to screenwriters or writers in general, I'm always interested in how they like to approach writing. Like I talked to one writer and he works for 3 hours and then he stops because he's got to experience stuff. I've talked to others who write for 8 hours a day. How do
Yeah.
you like to approach your writing?
It's kind of both of those ways. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes I just force myself to sit down, and sometimes I write absolutely nothing. And it's
Mhm.
really frustrating. But, as long as you sit down and you dedicate at least 10 minutes to writing something, even if you don't write anything and it feels very frustrating, your brain starts
Mhm.
to make that adjustment of, oh, I'm supposed to be writing right now. And then I've gone through like a couple days where I haven't written anything. And then suddenly I'll get this, like maybe the third day I'll have this inspiration and be able to write for 3 to 8 hours. But it's a matter of disciplining yourself and making it a habit, just like going to the gym, or just doing it. You just have to sit down and force yourself to give yourself the time to write.
I want to know, because this is a one-woman show, as you said, talking about elements of your life. So how, because I think about if I was writing a one-man show, I guess I probably would lie. So like, how do you push yourself to make sure that you're not just like, oh yeah, and then, this crazy amazing thing happened, and because you want to show both sides of things, right? You want to show the positive and the negative.
That's hilarious. No, actually, I had so much material that I had like 86 pages, and I had
Wow.
to cut it down to 23, because I'm sure the audience doesn't want to hear the grand opus of Tanna Frederick's life, and sit there for 5 hours. So I think that once you start writing, you realize you have a lot more stories within you than
Mhm.
you realize you did. We've all lived these full lives, and I did not have to embellish. I did not have to make anything up. I just was able to take what I had lived and translate that into my work.
Mhm.
It really is interesting. I mean, it I've had some crazy things happen, and we all have in our lives. So
Mhm.
it's just about embracing that story and then telling it truthfully, honestly, and with detail. And I find that the more detail that you tell your story with, as in screenwriting, the more detail that you tell your story with, the better the audience relates to it. The more vagary that you tell it with, people get it, but it's just like acting. The more specific you can get with your work, the more
Mhm.
people relate to it.
So because you workshop this a lot, so I'm wondering like what got cut and left on the floor while you went out on stage.
um some specific stories about some specific stories that I thought were hilarious, but being able to workshop it with friends is very important. It's very important to be able to have somebody to bounce your ideas off of, to have a buddy in the process, because I had stories about makeup artists and some other stories that I thought were maybe like traumatizing and awful,
Mhm.
and my filmmaking friends were like, it's kind of boring. so, so just being able to um, to read that to other people, and then them saying, it's not going along with the flow, and then reading it aloud over and over and over, you kind of start to feel a flow as well. um,
Mhm.
and you can feel that what's working and what's not, and what fits and what doesn't.
So now, because you act in this and you've got the feature that's coming out, and I'm wondering, as an actor, how do you like to prepare and get into a particular role? I mean, for Lion Eyes, it might be easier because you know the experiences, but for something that's not, how do you get into the role?
Well, the first thing I do, that's a great question. The first thing that I do, for instance, for the Rainmaker,
Mhm.
um, that I did out here playing Lizzie, is I find the character's shoes.
Oh,
Like, they
interesting.
literally find the character's shoes, because I want to know, what do they walk in and how do they walk, and the physicality of, like, is there a heavy burden to their shoes? Is there a haughtiness to their work? Is there, do they walk in heels? Do they walk in sneakers? When I played Sylvia the dog, which is a great play by A.R.
Mhm.
Gurney, I walked in high tops, because it was like, it's a dog, like, dogs are cool. They have, like, I think dogs would probably walk in Converse if they could,
Mhm.
and so it's always picking my pair of shoes first, and then immediately start rehearsing in those shoes.
Yeah, interesting. I did one acting class because I was like,
Uh-huh.
I'm an editor and I'm like, I need to understand the actor's side. And I was like, I'm definitely not an actor. Just because I think the first thing was like, choose an animal and pretend to be the animal in the room. And you're like, no, that's not me. Can't do it. So how do
Oh
you get out of
man,
your shell in that situation?
you should not discount yourself for that though, because I really hate that. I hate
Yeah.
that exercise. No offense, but like I find that more tangible exercises can help, like t-shirts and like the outfit. I'm saying like the costumes can help. I do
Mhm.
not like and it works for a lot of people
Yeah.
to embrace this animal. I mean, in Sylvia, I was actually playing a dog, which was
Yeah.
the most fun part because you're just like, I love everything. I love you,
Yeah.
and I love walks, and I love treats, and I love peeing, and but like in I don't think that you need to like become an animal in order to embrace a part. I think you just need to be a real person in a real place in a real time, and
Mhm.
that's important. So don't let that hinder you going back on stage because it that doesn't I don't necessarily ascribe to those methods.
Yeah. What would you say is your favorite play then?
My favorite play has been definitely Sylvia playing the dog. I
Yeah.
reprised that 3 times, and that was the happiest because playing a dog, well, I got to study my dog. It brought me closer to my dog.
Yeah.
And it was discovering, I got to discover all the simple things in life that that were joyful,
Hmm.
all the wonderful things. I had a very close relationship with a guy who played my owner, and it was just about being in love with life and with everything. It made me slow down. It made me, you know, like smell the grass, so to speak.
Yeah.
And and it was really lovely experience.
When you get into like the heart, like I guess like the darker roles or the heavier roles, how do you turn off at night? Because I feel like if you're playing like a really dark and sad role or something, you don't want to, you talked about the dog lifting you up and being happy all the time. Now, how do you turn off the sad side?
That's a toughie. I played an anti-Semitic nurse that my ex-husband wrote in a play called Train to Zakopane. That was a true story, based on a man, his father actually, who falls in love with an anti-Semitic nurse on a train going to Zakopane. And and that was a really, really heavy show. I mean, it was a very dark place to go to be in judgment and then try
Mhm.
to justify that judgment. um I was exhausted at night. There were times that I would run, like literally because of the hatred of the show. I would literally run backstage, like throw up in in between like in the
Mhm.
intermission, and come back on stage and do the show. And then I was a masochist enough to do after that, like uh, I did another show by Amiri Baraka, which is called The Dutchman, which
Mhm.
is about a white woman who stabs a black man on a train, and um, and this was before like the LA riots
Mhm.
and everything that went on. And I did those 2 shows back to back, and it was really hard to play the antagonist but try to make it the protagonist. And it just wipes me out. And the next day what I end up doing when I do plays, which is sometimes why film is easier, is I end up sleeping the whole next day. So I just go to bed and then I wake up like an hour before the show, go to the show. And but it takes everything out of
Mhm.
me, everything. And it's just I will just kind of walk around in this malaise. It's hard.
Probably one of the smartest things I've ever done for my career. It gave me all the tools that I needed to be able to jump into a new career.
Getting myself into a mindset, thinking like an editor, and being around people that I can talk to on that level was really invaluable to me.
A lot of the things that I learned from that class, I still think about.
I loved the classroom. I loved the computer stations. We built a sense of community.
And it also instills a lot of confidence in you to take that and go out into the world.
After I took the class, I felt very prepared to take the next step.
I owe Manhattan Workshop the career that I have right now.
Things have been going great, and I really have the Manhattan Workshop to thank for that.
Now, is there a particular role you've always dreamed of doing in like a well-known play?
Yes, I've always wanted to do Medea,
Yeah.
but I think I might be too old for that now, but I might not be. But yes, I have always wanted to do Medea because it terrifies me, and I like to do projects that are terrifying and that scare me. I think there's no reason to do something unless it's very frightening to you.
Now, I have one last question for you. What would you say is your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch?
The Sopranos.
Oh yeah? What is it about that?
The dark, sardonic wit of the characters, the brilliant work that all the characters do. Plus, I've worked with Michael Imperioli was my love interest, who's a total sweetheart and a brilliant actor in a film. I've worked with Sharon Carito, who played the wife of I think David Proval, and I've also worked with David Proval. So I've worked with some of the cast members, which makes it all the more fun. But before I had even worked with them, it's just delicious writing. It's such smart writing, and it's such unexpected writing, and it's not writing like, I mean, the first season is the ducks fly out of the pond. It's not, it's like, who would expect that this Don would be devastated because the ducks fly south for the
Yeah.
winter, it's very surprising. It keeps you on your toes, and it shows a very humanness to this crazy business. It's not necessarily the violence, it's the humanity behind these characters.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's it for our show this week, everyone. Make sure to check us out at filmmakeru.com or, of course, on Instagram at filmmaker_you. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching.